Hi, we're sisters, Amy and Nancy Harrington, the founders of the Passionistas project. We've created an inclusive sisterhood where passion-driven women come to get support, find their purpose, and feel empowered to transform their lives and change the world. On every episode, we discuss the unique ways in which each woman is following her passions. We talk about how she defines success and explore her path to breaking down the barriers that women too often face. Today, we're talking with Kristin Quattlebaum, a nomad traveling full-time as she guides others to awaken their greatness and the courage to be who they are in the world. Kristin has mastered the bridge between logic and intuition and believes that this connection is the key to unlocking a deeper understanding of who we are and why we're here. She uses tools like human design, intuitive healing, masculine feminine energetics, and audacious reflection to guide closet visionaries into their extraordinary expression. So please welcome Kristin Quattlebaum.
Hey guys,
We're
I'm
so
so glad to be here.
here. We just reading that introduction gets us excited to talk to you. So we start always with what are you most passionate about?
When you read that, I actually don't like bios. I always say, like, I like my energy to just speak for itself. And I thought I should have used audacious for my for my sign. Um, but yeah, I mean, just as you ask that question, I think about being audacious, and what that looks like in the world that we live in, and just this unapologetic permission to just be who I am in the world. I would say that, and then encouraging and guiding others through that process in their own way, and really unraveling and detaching from all the systems so that they can reveal that within themselves. And I think the more of us who are walking audaciously in the world, the better.
So first of all, it's never too late to change your sign. So you can send a new sign. But so how do you live an audacious life? What does that look like for you?
Such a good question. Honestly, what comes through right away is detaching, regularly detaching from societal norms, and just the way that we're told as business owners, like the way we should be doing business and showing up in business and being on social media and consistency, and just unraveling what all these things really mean to me and living from that space. What about you guys? What does living audacious mean to you?
Yeah, I think very similar to that. I think it means like just doing it the way I want to do it
Uh-huh.
and not living by anybody else's rules. I feel like it's making bold choices and believing in yourself and knowing that the outcome is going to be for the best, no matter what that outcome is.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm living life for yourself. I've I'm 61 years old and I think I worked maybe 5 of those years for an employer. And the rest of the time I've kind of done my own thing. So yeah, I've always felt like life is for me to live and not for anyone else to tell me how to live it. So
That's right. I
yeah,
do what I want.
yeah. So, but you did spend 15 years in corporate. So tell us about what you did and that journey and how you got out of that.
Yeah. So when I graduated college, I went right into climbing the corporate ladder because I felt that I couldn't be happy in my life until I had my career figured out. So I didn't date anybody. I didn't do any of that stuff until I had that career set. And it took some time for me to find that. And it was a lot of honestly leaning into mentors who saw something in me that I didn't see in myself. And I struggled along the way because I was looking and leaning on mentors a lot to tell me where do you see me? Because I can't tell you where do I want to be in 5 years? I could never answer that question because I was like, I just want to be successful. That's what I started saying to people. But I want to explore lots of different worlds and see what lights me up. I didn't have that one path that everyone around me seemed to have. And so that's what it was. It was like trying, okay, I'm excited about this opportunity, and I'd get really good at that thing, and then I would hit a brick wall. And then I would try another thing and get really good at that. And I was given tons of opportunities to excel and grow. And I was working for a bank at one point, and they were training me to be on the C-suite. Like there was like a lot of big opportunities that were given to me. But I found that with every one or every promotion, I was like, what's next? And it just became this, this hustling for achievements that didn't mean anything to me. And when I finally questioned what does this even mean to me? And why am I chasing this? At one point, I ended up experiencing a lot of anxiety. And so I went down the trail of hiring a therapist, and then I hired a coach. And with my coach at one point, she asked me, she said, who do you wear this achiever mask for? And right away I said, my mother. And I didn't realize, it was like she asked the perfect question at the perfect time for me. And it was then, only then, that I was able to put that down. And that was towards I would say, tail end, like maybe 2018. Yeah, 2018-ish, that I found that I realized that. And then 2019, early 2019, I actually started my business. So yeah, it was a lot of that along the way.
So
And as I unraveled more and more, I became more of who I was in corporate too. Started expressing myself more, which of course was seen as very audacious and maybe out of line at times, but I just couldn't help myself. I think the more we step into that, the more it becomes, you can't hide it.
So how did your definition of success change from working in corporate to maybe where you are now?
Yeah. So then it's interesting you asked that, because I would say then I was seeking fulfillment. I was always seeking fulfillment. It didn't matter how much money I had, who I was working for, any of that. I just wanted to be happy. I wanted to feel fulfilled. And I would say similarly now, like that is still what I'm seeking, is happiness and fulfillment. But my version of success, so there's that thread there, but my version of success, I would say, is based more on my own parameters than someone else's, right? So rather than fitting into what does it look like for somebody to be successful in corporate versus I'm an entrepreneur and I get to decide and feel into like this is what I want for my life right now, right? Whether that's me taking time off and really going inward, and not having to produce, right? It's not based on production.
Yeah, absolutely. So now in 2019, you started your business. So tell us about that process and explain to our listeners what you do.
Yeah, so I was hired in 2017, maybe I don't know, maybe 2016, but I was hired for a company when I got out of banking to help them shift their culture. That lasted for 2 years, and then they eliminated my position. 6 months went by, and I was hired for another company to help them shift their culture. And that lasted 6 months. And so that was March of 2019. So I had two positions eliminated within a year after a very successful career. And I always say it was a call from the universe to get out, and I took it. I accepted it, and I started my business in March of 2019. I started off as like an emotional expression coach. It was all about unraveling your emotional expression, because that was a big part of my journey in the beginning. And I think it's, that pent up expression is really interesting when you start working with people on expression, right? Because it starts to come out in ways that they're like, wow, I didn't love the way that came out. But when we're so pent up, right? So I started with that emotional expression work. And then in my coaching, when I hired my first coach, we started meditating, and meditation opened up my intuitive gifts. And so at the time I started my business, I went into a business mastermind. I met a woman who did energy work, loved her energy. And I said, whatever you have going on, I need this in my life, whatever this is. And so she sat and taught me some energy work that she had learned. And she said, you know, you're a natural at this. And I think you should go to this school and get certified in this work. And I was like, whatever. And I just went off in my own world and ended up circling back and got certified in intuitive life coaching. So that was the second piece of my business. And that was the work that changed everything for me. It changed my entire life. And it's the work that I'm passionate about now. And really that, you know, that bridge between logic and intuition, it's really coming out of the mind and expanding and living this life that is based on intuition instead of limitations from the mind. And then teaching people that, right? It's just one of the tools that I use, but it's really, my work is all about, it's funny when we first connected, I was calling myself a purpose guide and healer. And now I'm calling myself a truth seer and shadow alchemist. And it's really the same work, but it's claiming a deeper level of it. It's just claiming that this is the work you have to do to find your purpose, right? To really live in that unapologetic expression of yourself. You can't do that without finding that first. So my work evolves around purpose, life purpose, unapologetic expression. I do a lot with masculine, feminine dynamics. So really balancing those energies within ourselves, intuition, and then I also use human design.
So once you personally started living a more intuitive life, how did your life change?
Living based on intuition is so much more expansive than the mind. And corporate Kristin, who was not consciously intuitive, thought anything was possible. If you asked, can we build this? And before you could even ask the question, I would say, yes, we can build that. My boss said to me once, the sky is the limit for you. And I said, there's a limit. That was corporate Kristin, right? Intuitive Kristin can see so much more beyond that, which it just blows my mind every time I think about it. You know, I went from believing anything is possible to multiplying that across realms and dimensions and energies. And it's just really amazing what we see and how much the imagination expands and how the cool ideas that come through that aren't based on, you know, what you see or the old stale ideas that everyone's trying to like, you know, shake up and spit out again, right? It's like, how can I do business in a way that's really expressive of who I am and why I'm here? Because I think we all have that. I think we all can tap into that. And the way that it's really cool too to work with businesses who have hit plateaus because again, they're basing all their strategy on what they can think of. To take them into the energetic world is just, it's stuff you can't spit data out about, right? I'm not going to give you a report of data of how this is going to affect you, but if you take a chance and work with me, then your life is going to expand so much more than you can think because you literally can't think of what that would even look like. You know, so I always say, like, it's always the energy. It's like, if you feel connected to my energy and you're like, I don't know how we're going to work together, but like, there's a connection here and I want to do it. Those are my people because they're the ones that believe in the unseen.
Right. Yep. So you've mentioned a few ways you work with people. I want to like touch on a couple of them. So describe what human design is and how that works.
So human design is a rabbit hole. It combines a few systems like astrology, the chakra system, I Ching, and Kabbalah. It spits out this what's called body graph based on your birth info, so time, date, and location. And what it does is it talks about there are 4 main energy types in the world based on human design. So like 70% of the population are generators. They have their sacral defined, which gives them all the energy to create and build things in the world. 20% are projectors, 9% are manifestors, and 1% are reflectors. And there's a subpopulation in generators called manifesting generators, which are combo Manny Gen. And so it talks about how your aura, based on your energy type, how your aura is designed to interact with the world. And then based on your definition in your chart, like your chakras, if you think about it that way, what's defined or undefined speaks to like where you have consistent energy, like where your gifts shine in the world. And then where you're not defined talks about where you take in energy and where you're more likely to be conditioned. So it's a, I've done so many tests in my life and looked, at life path, and I've looked at all different things, and Myers-Briggs, Enneagram, DISC, all the things. And human design is the one that has just hit the nail on the head for me without, of course, giving your power away to any system. We're our own power. We're our own entity, right? So we get to decide that, but it's really interesting and it's a fascinating system.
So now, is energetics tied to that? Is that part of what you just defined, or is that something different?
Like the masculine, feminine?
Well, yeah, energetics is something we've heard kind of referenced in your language. So I don't know what energetics means. And I
Yeah.
am interested in the masculine, feminine specifically as well. So
Okay. I would say that it's tied into all of the things, right? So intuition, energetics, we're talking, so like super conscious, subconscious energy, and then masculine, feminine energetics is another. And then in human design, there's energetics tied to that as well. And masculine and feminine also weaves into human design. So to me, it's like this trifecta of beautiful tools that we get to look at. They're the tools that have had the biggest impact for me, I would say. And so of course they're the ones that I love to talk about and resonate with.
So what does it look like when someone comes to work with you? Is every single person different, or do you have sort of a process you go through?
So there are a lot of different things that I work with people on, whether it's transitioning people who are really tired of their corporate role and want to transition out, which, spoiler alert, sometimes that's not the best thing to do right away, because, you're sort of throwing a Band-Aid on a bullet wound when you just jump ship and you don't really know what you want, especially because most of those people who are in that position haven't actually asked for what they want in the environment that they're in. So just a little side note if you want to do some work on your own. But a lot of people transitioning out of corporate, so it's working through that a little bit. And then also if they want to start their own business, so I work a lot with those sorts of people. Really, like I call them the closet visionaries, the people that, they know they're meant for more and there's more inside of them, but they don't know what that is. And so helping them navigate finding that and working with that either in the environment that they're in and or creating their own. I've also worked with, couples. I've worked with couples with human design and masculine, feminine energetics and really claiming who they are, right? Because in relationships, a lot of times people merge into one being and they lose themselves, right? So how can we show up individually in relationships and allow us to co-create in that space? So many other ways. I've worked with authors. I've worked with businesses who are trying to disrupt, the therapy industry and create more energetics in the therapy industry, when in an industry that maybe it's not as accepted, for example. So a lot of different stuff like that. But I would say it's funny. I don't have a process per se that I go through, but it's really lifing, I call it. What's coming up for you right now? What's getting in your way? If this is what you want to do, how come, like you showed up in that space, not in the way that you just told me you wanted to show up. So let's work through that, right? That's the shadow alchemy part of it. It's the facing the little things that get in the way when we say what we want, but then our reality is not matching that. So it's lifing. It's not, here's a 10-step system to go, express who you are in the world. It's not quite like that, It's a lot of fear, walking with fear and unraveling the fears. And but most people, I would say, that come to me have done some work on their own, and they're ready to be more progressive on that journey. There's nothing surface level. Like, my world is deep, and like my people are ready to go deep.
Yeah, that must be intense.
Mhm.
So kind of, are you seeing common threads in the people that you work with? Are there like common, I mean, everybody's different, everybody's unique. Your process is different with each person, but it feels like the world is in a strange place right now.
Yeah.
And I'm just wondering, like, what are you seeing? And what is there any advice for people who may be feeling these common things that you're experiencing?
Yeah, one big thing that comes through right now is, so a lot of those closet visionaries, those people, they know there's something else meant for them, and they're not exactly aligned with where they're meant to be. That feeling, and they're maybe frustrated because they've done a lot of things, read a lot of books, maybe hired other coaches, done different programs, and they're frustrated that they're not where they want to be. And what I've found is that a lot of them are still very surface level, right? Like, they've, sort of done this work from a very surface level perspective. Like, for example, what are your values? Right? I was just working with a client on this the other day, right? And she said, family was her number one value. And so I said, can you explain that to me? Can you tell me why is family, like, explain that to me? Is this like a ride or die? Like, I do everything for my family. I'll put my needs aside and step in for my family. And she's like, oh, no, that's not what this means. And I said, well, let's talk about it, right? And then it sort of shifted into this like freedom of expression and support, having the support from your family to, walk your path, and to, just be that cohesive unit, right? And to also be individual in the family unit, but with respect. Right. And so that's very different than saying family is my number one value. Right. And so it's really interesting to even do something like that with somebody, right? Like, walk through what are your values, because so many people live these quote unquote value driven life, but they don't really understand it. And for those who are even corporations, right? She actually did this exercise for her company. Unfortunately, a lot of companies aren't even going to question it, right? They're just going to say, oh, these are her values, and not even go a step further. But that's not even the truth. And then we wonder why we're not able to place people in positions that actually light them up, where they're fulfilled and able to give their best performance, because we don't actually understand them, and we're not helping them to understand themselves. Right? We just keep accessing life at this surface level. So I think that's one of the biggest things I've seen recently, especially now. And I think that in the environment, in the wild environment that we live in, it's more important now. We're being asked to go deeper now. And the other thing I would say, especially with the environment right now, is that our rituals, like our self-care, it's so cliche to even say that word, our self-care is so important right now, because, the energy around us it's not ebbing and flowing anymore. It just seems to keep ratcheting up. And so I believe that, us unattaching and really like claiming our own energy and understanding that, not getting lost in the world around us, is so super important right now, especially for those of us that feel the call and we're frustrated, but there's just a lot of energy that's sort of trying to pull us out of even going on our own paths. So it's super critical to be grounded and just anchored in to our own energy.
That's so
Yeah.
interesting. I definitely am feeling that, and it's manifesting like in my body in different, like I've had back pain, I've had eye stuff, like all this stuff is I've been like, okay, I'm gonna get through this next phase in the world, and I'm calm, and I'm gonna be great. And I'm shutting myself out from the noise that I used to get sucked into. But it's like there's also a difference between being in your bubble and staying calm and letting it all and taking it all in and letting the negative energy impact you, right?
Mhm.
So like, how do you avoid internalizing the negative energy that's coming at you while you're trying to take care of you? To me, I was thinking I was taking care of myself by kind of like not showing a lot of emotion about what's happening. And in reality, I think I need to kind of let out more of this negative energy that is penetrating me subconsciously.
Mhm.
You know, I don't know if you have any thoughts on that.
Yeah, so one of the exercises that I teach regular is grounding and protection. And it teaches you this. It's on my YouTube channel, actually. I can send you guys the link. So it's basically teaches you three energy bubbles. So you do a purple, a pink, and a white, 4, 8, and 12 feet behind you or around you. And the premise of it is that that purple bubble around you, the 4-foot one, is your bubble. It's your energy and nobody can penetrate it. The pink and white are energy bubbles that people can come into and you can sense them and feel them and witness them in their experience, but you're not taking it in. And so as empaths, it's really beautiful when we can witness other people in their experience, but when we start to shift into their energy, it's not serving them or us. And so it just really teaches you to anchor in. I was talking on a podcast yesterday about this actually. Like when we are super anchored in our own energy, we can be in a chaotic environment and witness it and acknowledge it and all the things without like, we're not completely like building a wall between us, right? I can witness it all, but I can stay anchored in my energy. And when you have a force in the room that's doing that, it has the ability to influence the room in such a profound way, right? Because people notice that, like, oh, she's not getting wrapped up in this. Like, her energy is calm. I feel drawn to her, right? What's going on there? How can I do that? And people notice it. And so I think that's where the real power is. It's really about protecting, knowing where your energy stops and another person's begins. And that takes work to do because especially for the empaths in the world, like they're just so used to walking into a room and like, oh, here's a lot of energy here, right? I never understood it. I never thought I was empathic, but when I was like in my 20s and I go out to the bar with my girlfriends and I'm like, this is gonna be the best night ever. We're have so much fun. And then I'd walk into a space and like my whole energy shifted. And I'd be like, what's wrong with me? Like, what? I was so amped up about going out tonight. And now, like, I don't want to be around people. Like, what's happening? I didn't understand that I was taking in other people's energies. It's just even like I've also spoken about like, kids who are diagnosed autistic. Like, I believe that they're super sensitive and we haven't taught them how to navigate that energy properly, right? And so what would that look like if we took kids who are super sensitive and we help them navigate that, right? And really understand like this is how you keep your energy. You don't need to absorb all this and that's around you, right? How can you create this container for yourself and navigate still receive the world around you, but from this space of like, but this is me, this is mine. I don't have to take in all that.
Yeah. Yeah, we've had a lot of conversations lately with women who say that a lot of entrepreneurs are neurodiverse. And because of how they view the world and deal with the world, that's what sets them up to build this bubble around themselves where they control their environment and they have their own business. Do you find that with a lot of your clients? And is that something you directly deal with working with them?
It's not something I like that we speak to directly. Um, it's tough, when sometimes I'm like, do we label things? Do we not label things? Like I kind of get in that space of, um, I never want there to be any limitations around anybody, but sometimes it helps us, to call it something, especially for those people that are looking for some sort of understanding or, validation of the way that they've been feeling.
Right.
I would say though that I don't always see the people that I work with super attuned to themselves.
Mhm.
Most of them are very attuned to the world around them. And it's more of a, like, we need to detach from all that so you can actually see who you are and navigate the world. We're just conditioned so deeply to follow. Even those of us that think we're leaders, we're born leaders, we're still so deeply conditioned to follow the track that's there, you know? Don't step out of it. You're always going to feel that pressure to come back. And to me, the journey is really all about continuing to question that and step out and say, no, actually, like, it's harder to be over here on my own path because I feel all this pressure that's trying to pull me back in all the time. But like, I believe so deeply in this that I'm going to keep walking it. And the more I walk it, the more seeds I plant, the more energy, that trickles out and around me and the ripple effect. And, I have to trust that that's going to build more around me. But I think to me, it's more about detaching from the world around than it is even, some of them aren't even super attuned to themselves.
So you've touched upon it a couple times, but talk more in depth about masculine and feminine energy. I think especially for women coming out of a corporate world, obviously we've been trained in this masculine space. And I know when I was in the corporate side, the studio side of entertainment, I really tried to shut down my feminine energy as much as possible. And now I'm just completely kind of swung the other way and really don't tap into my masculine energy as much as I think I need to sometimes. So talk about those dynamics.
Yeah, this is another world that just fascinates me. So, first of all, for those new to it, it's not based on sex or gender. It's we carry the polarity within us, masculine and feminine within us. And so it's really the masculine is all about safety, the foundation, it's the container, right? It's just this safe space to land. And the feminine is more creative, more intuitive, embraces change, emotion, like that, sort of stormy energy is the feminine. And so when I was in corporate, I was very masculine, Kristin. And when I got out of corporate, I went all feminine. And the reality is that in those extreme polarities, we need both to really move forward and get what we want done. So we have to be able to, this is so interesting because I'll share this quickly. When I was working with a client who is wants to get out of corporate, and they've eliminated her position. They gave her 90 days to find something in the company or move on. And she's like, I'm going to move on, but she doesn't know what she wants. And so I explained to her that she's basically released her masculine energy in corporate, right? Even though she's a leader there, she's released her masculine because if she had connection to it, she would be able to claim what she wants in that organization, right? But what happens is she's mad at the corporation for not giving her what she needs, but she can't even say, but this is what I want, right? That's her wounded masculine, not feeling seen and so, and I share that because somebody needed to hear that out there. It came through for a reason. But what happens is when we're all in our masculine, we move forward, and I would say a very the creativity isn't there, right? It's more like robotic production based. feminine energy allows us to bring in that creative, intuitive energy. And so when we swing all feminine, we don't get anything done because we have no structure to put it in. So we have to have both. And I did this meditation once where I met my masculine, met my feminine. And my feminine said, the masculine said, I just want you to tell me what you want and I'll build the path. And my feminine was like, I don't want you to tell me what to do. Right. Like, so these are the parts of me speaking. But it was so beautiful to hear after my feminine was like, I don't want you to tell me what to do. The masculine was like, just tell me what you want and I'll build the way. That was so powerful for me to hear. And I also saw them in that vision, like marrying each other. So I could see them together. So that wasn't like, oh, this is masculine Kristin. Oh, this is feminine Kristin. It's just, I could see them actually working together. And it's a natural dance between the two within ourselves. And then also in relationship, when we're in relationships, you need that natural polarity as well. But it's a natural process. It's not like I need to bring feminine Kristin online. And it's not like that exactly, but it's fascinating because like the wounded masculine was Kristin hustling for achievements, right? It's never enough. It's not I need to achieve more. That's wounded masculine. I was in my masculine very much, but it was wounded. The divine masculine is, knows the container. It can, evaluate chaos and not be, it can be around that feminine energy and not be completely thrown off. It can say, okay, this is what we need, right? It's like a leader who can step in and into an emergency situation and say, here's exactly what we need to do, right? That's a grounded masculine energy. When we teach things, it's masculine. When we coach as coaches, we're masculine. Feminine intuition, right? I receive intuition. And it's funny, I talk about the bridge between logic and intuition. I explained too that like I have a lot of masculine energy in my chart and I rejected it for a long time until I saw my masculine energy interpreting the feminine intuition that came through. And then I was like, oh, so I can actually shift my relationship with the masculine and that beautiful masculine energy gives me the words to express to people. I can read energy the way that I do because I embrace my masculine.
Right.
Which is not something a lot of people think about when they're intuitive, right? They're not thinking I'm masculine over here, but it was so beautiful that moment that I had. And I saw that it's like, oh, it's my interpreter. It gives me words for the energy that I'm seeing that like most people, intuitive healers who can't explain what they're seeing or feeling, they're in their feminine. They need to embrace their masculine more. I've never actually said that out loud, but like, there you go.
It's the best definition of all of that I've ever heard. So thank you. That was
That's so great.
It was a lot. That's my open throat in human design.
love it.
Love it. So, do you have one or two success stories from people that you've worked with that you could tell us about?
Oh, goodness. Well, I will tell you that one of the couples that I'm working with right now, actually, we're on the verge of divorce. She was very in her masculine, he was very in his feminine, and now they have completely swapped roles, and they're happier than they've ever been in their marriage. And that's very rewarding to see. It's just, and reading their human design, explaining the human design dynamics in their relationship. And he has more confidence. He's manifesting the shit out of his life. Like so much is happening in their relationship because they've claimed who they really are, not who they thought they were. Right. It's just, that's been very, very rewarding to witness. Let's see, another success story. I worked with a woman who was really struggling with the investment. and making an investment. I think a lot of people get stuck in that fear of investing in themselves and the payoff of it all. And when she decided, so when we were going back and forth on it, I actually spoke to her and I said, you know, she said, I'm depleting my savings. I'm running through my savings to run my business right now. And I said to her that you can either deplete all of your savings and basically continue with the same patterns and decisions that you've been making, or you can take a chance. We can go 3 months and see what happens, see what shifts in your business, right? And within a month, she called in the largest income month that she's ever had. And we even went on like, I even worked with her on a payment plan and spread out her payments further. And she was like, nope, I want to pay you in full now. Like all of that shifted for her, like just by making that decision. And I don't think that we give ourselves enough credit for what that means, right? When we just claim that energy, when we say like, this is what I want. You know, I'm tired of this. I'm tired of the old pattern, but we have to be willing to break it in some way. We have to do something to break it, not just think about breaking it or say, I'm tired of it, right? We have to do some sort of that. Like it's like the universe wants something, like we have to show our cards in some way. There's a lot. I mean, I've done readings for people who've had like the biggest launches that they've ever had by just a 5-minute reading that I've offered. I called out, I've called out relationships that were unhappy and people come to me a year later and say he was cheating on me. Like it's like I put words to energy that people are almost afraid of saying or seeing themselves. And sometimes it's just very affirmative, you know, it's like I see people, the truth seer, that I guess what I call myself, right? I see the truth in people and you can say 50 things to me and I can point out what's underneath it. It's the gift of being a projector too on top of it. There's a lot of moments I could share, but those are 2 recent ones that I can share.
Those are great. I think that we've had conversations with so many women lately that both of those topics will really hit them. You are also a digital nomad. So how does your intuition play into where you find yourself in the world at any given time?
Yeah, so this has been a fun journey. I've been doing it for 4 years now, and every time I try to plan something, I'll get redirected. Like I wanted to go to British Columbia one time, and I was in Northern California and pretty much smoked out by the fires. And my intuition was like, go back to Arizona for 3 months, you know, and that's what I did. Every time I try to plan something, I get redirected. And I think one of the big reasons I did this was one, because I felt stagnant where I was, but 2, because I wanted to go deeper into the journey of surrender. And the other thing I didn't know I needed in doing this was finding safety within myself. Because I'm moving around so much, I'm being forced to ground my energy in myself all the time, right? Like it's not my environment that's making me safe. It's me. So sometimes I get direct messages, you know, I'll go to Arizona for 3 months. Sometimes I'll just feel a call, like I need to go back to Louisiana, or I'll see like I'll see 337, which is an area code in Louisiana. Sometimes it's an invitation, right? My cousin invited me to Nova Scotia, so I went to Nova Scotia recently. It's my favorite place I've been now, and I fully intend on having a property there someday. It's super magical. Sometimes it's interesting. Like sometimes if I'm going, like one time I was traveling from Florida to Canada, and I needed a space between. And so when I looked at the Airbnbs, I look to what's speaking to me. Right. And then I'll land, like in that case, I landed in West Virginia. And not knowing that I was going to connect with a business we called it Wild, we did an event and I called it Wild Women of West Virginia. And these women just needed permission to connect back with the land and like be in their power as women, like to gather in community as women. Like, you can't make it up. Like you land in these places and you give these communities exactly what they need. Even in the moments where I'm like, why am I here? Like, I don't understand. Something's not working out. I'm not connecting with businesses. I'm not blah, blah, blah. And maybe then I'm going through a super introspective journey or, in one case in Louisiana, I decided to stay longer. And everything that I was planning to do from a business perspective, all my partnerships fell through. And I was like, why am I here? Why am I here? And what ended up happening was I connected with the land very deeply for the first time and opened up my gifts to connect with the land. And now I feel called to do work with the land and help people connect with the land and receive messages. It's really powerful, like what I've seen in the land in different places, like in Maine, it was the land was like, I'm being used and abused was the message that I got, right? There's so much hunting and, sports on the like ATVing and stuff on the land, that the land literally asked me for feminine blood, literally. And I mean, not literally, like the land didn't, words didn't, but I felt them. I was just talking to a client yesterday about that, like how people are misusing the word literally. But I don't know. It's just everywhere it's whether it's a person I meet or, a community I'm connected into or the land needs a message for me. And I know that I'm planting seeds everywhere I go, even if I'm not consciously doing it. It's just magical. It's like I'm creating this little web of energy around the world that it's interesting. It's really interesting.
Yeah. So how can people get in touch with you if they want to know more or they want to work with you?
My website's a great place to start. So it's kqunplugged.co. And you'll see I have a podcast. I have a YouTube channel. I'm on Instagram, Facebook. But you'll see all of that linked there. I do events. So I have events that are both virtual and then in person. If you happen to be in the area that I'm in Florida right now. So you'll see all that on my events page and yeah.
Excellent.
Awesome. So one last two-part question, which is, what is your dream for yourself and what is your dream for women?
I love this question. My dream for myself is to fully express, to really step into all of my power, and I'm not there yet. I know that I'm not there yet. So, but to own it, to own my journey here. And for women, what comes through is to see their power, but not necessarily in like a feminist kind of way, but in really honoring and understanding the power of what it means to be a woman and the change that we can really affect in this world, because it is the feminine that brings that forward. And we are the greatest expression of that as women. So more of that, please.
Thanks for listening to the Passionistas Project. Since we're not only business partners, but best friends and real-life sisters, we know how unique and truly special our situation is. We know so many solopreneurs, activists, women seeking their purpose, and more, who are out there doing it all on their own. They often tell us they wish they had what we have. So we've created a space for them and you to join our sisterhood, where trust, acceptance, and support are the cornerstones of our community. By joining, you become part of our family. We'll give you all of our sis tips on building meaningful relationships through the power of sisterhood and all the tools you need to thrive in 3 key areas: business growth, personal development, and social impact. You'll learn from our panel of Power Passionistas, who are experts on topics like transformational leadership, letting go of perfectionism, the power of community, and so much more. You can connect with like-minded women and gender non-conforming, non-binary people who share your values and goals in chat spaces, at online Passionistas pajama parties, and virtual and in-person meetups. And you can register for our exclusive series of online courses designed to help you tap into your intuition, find your purpose, bring your mission to fruition, and integrate diversity, equity, inclusion in every aspect of your plan. Be sure to visit thepassionistasproject.com to sign up for our free membership to join our worldwide sisterhood of passion-driven women who come to get support, find their purpose, and feel empowered to transform their lives and change the world. We'll be back next week with another Passionista who's defining success on her own terms and breaking down the barriers for herself and women everywhere. Until then, stay passionate.